Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, a really interesting movie in terms of expectations. You had Scott Derrickson, who had done the first film, also of course I'm blanking on the movie now.
Boogie Nights.
Sinister, one of my favorite horror movies. Love Scott Derrickson's work. Really have grown to like Doctor Strange, the first one, more and more. Although I do think it is, it's like on the higher end of the mid tiers for me. But he had left the film due to creative differences, which usually isn't a good sign. Edgar Wright had done the same with Ant-Man, and then they bring in Sam Raimi, a powerhouse director, which is an interesting move because typically with Phase 3 and Phase 4, they've gone with lesser-known directors that they can seemingly have more control of because it's not the director's story and it's not the director's vision. It's Kevin Feige's story, it's Kevin Feige's vision, and he needs a director that's going to sort of toe the line. And then all the reports coming into the movie, lots of reshoots. Bruce Campbell was talking about it pretty explicitly and openly on various platforms, saying that I don't even think Sam knows who's in the movie at this point. I don't even think Benedict Cumberbatch can bank on being in Doctor Strange. That's how many reshoots we've been doing and how many script changes have been coming in, even in the last, minute of this thing coming out. So he was like, until the movie comes out, I don't know who's in it. And I think he was being genuine. And we know Sam Raimi himself said that there were about 40 minutes cut from his original cut of the film, which was about 3 hours long. They cut 40 minutes, and that's before they even did reshoots.
Release the Raimi cut.
Exactly. So they had a 2-hour, 40-minute movie. They cut 40 minutes of that, and then the mandated reshoots came in. So that's sort of like, that's what's going on in the lead up to the movie. So I was very excited to see what Sam Raimi had to do. Even the trailers themselves looked a lot more colorful, a lot more use of blacks, a lot less washed out sort of gray that we've gotten in a lot of Marvel Cinematic Universe films. It looked very dynamic. It looked very exciting. So I was like, no matter what, Sam Raimi is going to at least give me a feast for the eyes. And we have Danny Elfman, one of the top 3 composers all time. It's like him, John Williams, Hans Zimmer. Those are probably the top 3. I mean, you can make arguments for whoever you want. We're just throwing names out there.
At least in American cinema, for sure.
He's top. Danny Elfman is a legend. So with Raimi and Elfman, I knew I was going to get at least 2 things that I can hang my hat on. Great directing, great music. And I think we've gotten both of those. But as for the cast of characters, of course, we have Benedict Cumberbatch coming back as Doctor Strange. We have Elizabeth Olsen as Wanda Maximoff. Not a lot of people really knowing what they were going to get into. I think it was a pretty interesting turn, but we'll get into that. Xochitl Gomez played America Chaves. We had Benedict Wong coming back as Wong, of course, and Rachel McAdams came back as Christine Palmer. So that's the main billing cast. That's the lead up into the film. Mm-hmm. Going into it, what were your expectations? Were they similar to mine? Were you a little worried, or did you think they were going to knock it out of the park?
If you listen back to our discussions, I mean, our podcast has been around for a while. A lot of our viewers have been around. They've interacted with us. They kind of know what we were looking for. Follow us on Twitter. If not, you'll see what we're most excited for. Shameless self-promotion, but I was more excited for Multiverse of Madness as a film than I was probably for anything since Endgame, and probably for most of the movies that came before it. I just think that the mystical side of Marvel Comics and the mystical side of the Marvel Cinematic Universe has the most potential to just be batshit, off the wall, crazy, and unique. And that's what I was most looking forward to. Was let's Sam Raimi just be an absolute film god that he is and go crazy. And I feel like the film's title should have been Multiverse of Madness, because it was absolutely not madness. I think overall they went to 3 distinct universes They passed through a couple on the way there, but overall, I didn't really see much in the way of like crazy multiverse of madness stuff. That's not to say that needed to be the central theme, but I was expecting a little bit more of it being a bit more bombastic, a little bit larger in scale.
Yeah,
I think it was cool, the concept that they came up with, but I think that the story overall kind of held it kind of held them to not being able to truly like go crazy in the universe.
The story itself, I think, was pretty basic. There wasn't a ton going on. There wasn't. You compare this story, and this story is, contained within a film called Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Obviously, that title is a mouthful, but the story is very linear and it's very basic, and almost nothing happens. Compare that to like The Batman, for instance, much smaller title. So much is going on. It's an insane amount of things. Or like Infinity War. Clearly the scope isn't as big. Now we know that, having seen the movie with the benefit of hindsight, but going into it, you're like, this is going to be kind of crazy. But if you really strip everything away, Wanda wants America's powers, and she tries to get them, and Doctor Strange tries to stop her, and that's it. There's nothing more. There's no really twists or turns. It's just that's it.
I'm foaming.
That's where we go
at the mouth.
So it was just there wasn't a lot, I think, to chew on in terms of interesting story direction. Not a ton of interesting character development. Not really any at all. We already knew about Doctor Strange and Christine, and I think they sort of they hammered that home to the point where it wasn't really that believable, especially based on their relationship in the first movie. Like, of course, they were together, but it wasn't like this whole, they were always meant to be together and, it just didn't work out sort of thing. That they were like hyping it up to be in this movie. I think they thought we were going to care about that relationship a little bit more than we do. I don't know. What do you think?
So, just to kind of like address some conversation I'm seeing in the chat is people are saying, what are you expecting? It's a 2.5-hour movie, and I'm kind of expecting a cohesive story.
I thought it was 2 hours and 5 minutes, but
like a story that to me felt a little bit like more complete, I would say. So my biggest problem with the movie, and I've seen other people complain about this, and Twitter's been arguing about it, is I felt like it was a big regression for the character of Wanda Maximoff, who spent all of WandaVision essentially being a shitbag, and then she realizes that she's being a shitbag, and she stops being a shitbag. And then the very last scene of the show, like the whole show is about her learning to deal with this tremendous amount of grief that she's carrying around with her, and she did it the wrong way, and she stops, and she at least appears to be like she's trying to live a better life and not, be such a scumbag. But the very last scene, whether we wanted to believe it or not at the time of WandaVision, was her studying the Darkhold, and you can hear her children in the background. And I don't think I was necessarily ready to believe that Wanda's character regression was going to be so abrupt and quick from WandaVision that we just got a couple months ago straight into this movie. I thought there would have been some story element that drove her over the edge to want to go back.
It would have been cool to see that turn. It would have been cool to see that, but we have this gap, and there's.
Instead, what happens is the movie starts, and they're already in the midst of a conflict across the multiverse that we've come to find out is just been Wanda being a shitbag again, off camera or out of sight, out of mind, kind of a thing. And when you're first introduced to Wanda within the film, there's almost no like justification given for why she's doing it. She's just like, I want my kids back. Oh, the kids that you made up. Like, we get it. Like, this is very similar to her losing her shit in the comics. But it didn't feel organic from a storytelling perspective. It kind of feels like what the CW does with shows where they give a character an opportunity to grow, and then like within an episode or two they forget that they had that character defining growth moment, and they just go back to the way that they used to be so that they could tell that lesson again. And that's kind of like, how many times are we going to have Wanda in the MCU learn, like, maybe I shouldn't use my powers to be a piece of shit? Because she did it in Age of Ultron, and she learned, I shouldn't use my powers to be a piece of shit. And then in Civil War, she was like, oh, I made this horrible mistake. Maybe I should learn to use my powers to not be a piece of shit. And then in Infinity War, she had this big grief moment. And then in WandaVision, it was all about that. And then now you have that same thing here. And I'm not saying that like the character of Wanda's bad. I think personally she's a great character, probably one of the most interesting and dynamic characters in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But how many times are you going to tell the same story? The same exact character flaw?
Yeah. My biggest problem with the Wanda stuff is, again, we didn't get to see the moment where she went down that like crazy path. She was just insane. As soon as the movie began, she had already summoned like demons chasing this poor little girl. That all happened off screen, so that would have been cool to see. But my big thing is, like, what was the point of WandaVision? Right? Like, what was Wanda's goal in WandaVision? Her goal was to live this happy life with who? Vision. Yeah. Where was Vision in this movie? He was mentioned like one time. We know that White Vision's out there. He has all of Vision's memories. She didn't go and like try to talk to him or something. Like, she knows he exists. Why wouldn't she go to him first? If there was anyone that was going to talk Wanda down, it would have been Vision, right? I think Vision not being in this movie was like a huge problem. Not only that, he wasn't in the main 616 universe. Why is Wanda, this is going to sound nitpicky, but honestly, why is Wanda a single mom in every single universe? Where did the kids come from? Did she make them there? Did she have them with Vision? Is Vision dead in every universe? We just needed more answers. Also, can't she just like, if she really wanted her kids back that much, and she didn't care about being in the rest of the world, which obviously she doesn't, can't she just make another hex that doesn't have anyone else in it and make her kids again with chaos magic? I don't understand.
I don't think,
I don't know.
There's that old Grant Morrison joke where he talks about, like, you give an adult too much fiction and they're going to ask you, who pumps the tires on the Batmobile, right? That kind of a thing, indicating that, some things you don't need to have answered. But when you have an entire show 6 months ago that's focused on Wanda and Vision's relationship, to have him like nowhere present in this film was definitely weird. I thought that in some capacity he would have been referenced more or shown up or something. I'm okay with him not showing up, but it definitely felt like it has, at least to me, felt like since the midway point of Civil War that they're a package deal, Mm-hmm. Like they come together. It's like if you put, like at this point, Falcon and Winter Soldier are a package deal. Before that, Cap and Falcon were a package deal, at least in some capacity. It's just weird to have one without the other.
The show was called WandaVision, not Wanda Kids. I'm just saying.
But people were talking. People were talking about in the chat, like they're saying, like, why do you need answers to some of these things? And it's because, like, this is a growing and living and breathing universe and if there's
the foundation of Wanda's character is built around Vision. The show WandaVision exists because of him. So I get she wants her kids back, but she want Vision back or not? That's all I'm saying. Is I feel like it's inconsistent tonally, and for the character to not care about that was the whole motivation of the show that we just watched last year.
I don't think it's
nitpicking. I think it's
there's a person XLTD that mentions her chaos magic doesn't work like that. Did you watch WandaVision? The extreme grief caused her to create kids. I don't know if you watched WandaVision, but at the end of it, she's studying this thing called the Darkhold, that amplifies her powers pretty drastically across the multiversal spectrum. So, yeah, we watched the show. If she's studying these things, she's capable of doing more than what the plot of the show is giving us. Like it's not that difficult. These are plot line inconsistencies that you have to be willing to look
But
past
she
to
also just took down the Hex
justify
when
the
she wanted
stupid.
to. And when she became the Scarlet Witch, she would have the power to do that again. She could reality warp outside the Hex, which is something she couldn't do prior to becoming the Scarlet Witch. I just think it's I don't know. It that just felt weird to me. The specific lack of vision most
Somebody
prominently.
said somebody said White Vision is just being a deadbeat dad, and I gotta say, I
He's
mean,
got no kids. How could it be a deadbeat dad? He's got no children.
yep, he didn't sign up for these kids.
Yeah.
So,
First of all, they're not his kids. They're fake Vision's kids.
yeah,
Even though he has fake Vision's memories now, or
a
real
lot of
Vision's
people
memories.
a lot of people don't remember that she created that Vision. That's not the original Vision. The
Yeah.
original Vision was living in a tank that they recovered after they recovered his body. But anywho,
It's not about making peace with Vision. That's not what
let's
it's about.
let's talk about what everybody really wants to discuss, and it's the fucking cameos in this movie.
Well, let's talk about Doctor Strange first. I mean, we haven't talked about him for a
Fine,
single second, and
fine.
it's his movie. So
He was great.
I had mentioned earlier that like I feel like it's kind of hard to connect to Doctor Strange. I don't know what it is with the character. I just don't think he's all that interesting or exciting outside of the fact that he does like cool magic. I just personally have never felt that connected to the character, and maybe it's a lack of having like tangible relationships that we care about. Like
Yeah,
Christine, I mentioned earlier, I don't think their relationship was ever that deep in the first movie. His
for
relationship
sure not.
With Wong has never been that deep, not in the first movie and not in any other movie. They kind of sort of have this like professional rivalry between each other, and it's all in good fun, but their relationship's not that deep. We've never seen Wong and Strange ever share like an emotional moment together or like have a deep conversation a single time. So like their relationship's not that interesting. So maybe it's not Doctor Strange himself, but the supporting cast he has around him never really connect to the character in any sort of meaningful way at all. And the whole Christine thing felt pretty ham-fisted. So I don't know. I just feel like the character was sort of just going along in this story, and then
I feel like the character of Doctor Strange within the MCU is a little bit more selfish than he comes across in other forms of media, and I think that what the goal of a lot of this movie was supposed to do is just, Christine mentioned that you have to be the one holding the knife line over and over again, just to kind of indicate that he'd always been a bit more self-important around things, even when it comes to relationships. But certainly the emotional investment just wasn't there for him and Christine's relationship, because like you said, in the first movie they're already broken up. They do have like another semi-large breakup during that film, but because there just wasn't a whole lot there, it's not as impactful now. And he hasn't spent any time since then really discussing that character. We haven't seen her again since the first one, so it's kind of trivialized the emotional like journey that he's going through. It's just, for us as viewers, it's not that important.
Christine and Strange's relationship compared to the other like good relationships within the MCU, Tony Stark and Pepper Potts, Steve Rogers and Peggy Carter, even though they're only have that one movie together, that's the like cornerstone of the film, is like their relationship, seeing the war and journey of Captain America through each of their eyes. Peter Parker and Michelle Jones, these are all like very well established relationships that we really care a lot about. And if this was like when he had to have MJ forget who he was, that was like super emotional. People were breaking down in the theater and crying, and I feel like they tried to do that with Doctor Strange and Christine, but it was just like you didn't lay the groundwork for the emotional payoff. So I feel like you needed, I don't know, something more grounded.
Mm-hmm.
than what we got in Multiverse of Madness, which sort of leads into like the whole Mordo thing. I want to see the movie where Mordo was a villain, the movie that we set up in the first Doctor Strange, because if you're just a Doctor Strange guy and you watch Doctor Strange and then you watch Doctor Strange 2, you've got no clue what's going on at all.
You've got no continuity to follow through with.
The only reference to like the first movie is, oh yeah, Mordo dedicated his life to try to kill me. Oh, that's cool. When did that happen?
It's a very throwaway line for like who for all intents and purposes is Doctor Strange's nemesis. Like that is like Mordo is Doctor Strange's nemesis through and through. And I mean and Dormammu, but I mean they definitely clash the most times of anybody. And then when he interacts with Mordo in this film, it's like, yeah, there's something there, but then there really wasn't. Sorry, I felt like the character of Mordo, you could have transplanted with literally any character in the MCU, any cameo you wanted to. There was no impact there of having him included in the Illuminati, or pretty much any Illuminati member. You could have just swapped them out for somebody else.
I think Chiwetel Ejiofor is so amazing, and to have his role as Mordo be teased to like be this villain for the second one and then reduced to essentially a glorified cameo is so like disrespectful in my opinion. I would have loved to see that, but I mean it isn't what we got. We got Wanda as the villain instead, which I do think was interesting and cool and fun, and she was crazy, and Elizabeth Olsen was like really selling it and hamming it up, and she was awesome. I don't want to take away from her at all. I just had a couple problems with not seeing the turn, which I think would have been awesome. We sort of missed that, and then her kind of motivations get all jumbled up, but she was affected by the Darkhold or whatever, so obviously she's not thinking straight. But I thought Elizabeth Olsen was one of the best parts of the movie for sure. Her character aside, she was awesome.
I think she played a really good villain. Her motivations within the film were stupid, but I thought that the character herself was very scary, very menacing. Her power level was, of course, off the charts. That was really cool. But like you said, there's just some rounding out of the character that I would have liked to have seen something between WandaVision and this to establish the levels of insanity that were shown in Multiverse of Madness.
Yeah. So I thought she was awesome. I think the relationship between Strange and Candace was, Christine was not really that well established and didn't have a payoff that we all cared about. I also thought it was really weird that Strange mentioned, like, they want us to care so much about Strange, but they say and don't show, and it sucks. Like, Strange losing his sister, something we've never heard about, and then they just drop that bombshell on us like we're supposed to care or be emotionally invested in this revelation, was just weird and off-putting. It's like,
show me, don't tell me.
Yeah, like, okay, you lost your sister. Cool. Like, you've been around for 5-6 years now. Nobody knew that. Well, we don't talk about it. Clearly. Like, I feel like that's something the audience should know if you want it to be an emotional beat, an important emotional beat in the movie. Yeah. Like, that was sort of like right before the climax. That was like a really pivotal moment of the film, where, shit is at its most dire. He needs to get back to America. He needs to figure out a way to get out of here, and he needs this other version of Strange to help him, and he needs to relate to him in some way. Your whole movie hinges on Strange and his relationship to Christine. Why didn't you just use that instead of bringing in the sister thing that we've never heard about before and have really no emotional investment or stakes in? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that fight between him and Evil Him, or Darkhold Corrupted Him, with the music was insane.
I've seen so many people complaining about that fight, and I honestly feel like every day
people were complaining about it. You said.
Yeah, people were complaining. I mean, a lot, and social media typically tends to show you more negative than positive because the negative things are more likely to cause engagement or disagreements.
Sure.
But seeing people discussing that specific battle, in saying like, oh, it was cheesy or it was bad. It immediately sucked my will to live out of my body. I did not want to be on this earth anymore. Because like out of all the things in the movie that you could nitpick, I thought that was the most creative and inventive. It was a callback to Doctor Strange's ear for music from the first film.
Yep.
It was a great way of using not only, magic in a unique battle, but also just an absolute blast for the score.
Yeah.
The different musical crescendos, the swelling, the bursting. As somebody who plays music and has played music for the vast majority of my life, I just thought it was really cool and really unique. Yeah, they could have stood in a room and been in fucking Harry Pottered it and been like, here's a lightning spell. Oh, here's a mist spell. Here's a spell that looks like the mirror dimension. But they didn't do that. Like Sam Raimi said, I got an idea for you.
We're using minor and major keys fighting against each other. It was cool.
We're gonna have Doctor Strange throw an arpeggio at him. Go, film it. Do it. Do what you gotta do. Like it was just unique and fun. And all these people are like, I didn't like it because it was cheesy. Yeah, it's a fucking movie about a sorcerer who's traveling multiple dimensions. In one of them, he turns into paint, and you're like, musical notes. That's where I'm drawing the line. Like,
I thought
I'm sorry, dude.
there were a lot of really cool creative decisions that Sam Raimi had made. But I think, like I had mentioned in the Moon Knight review, Marvel has a very distinct style. And it seems that this typical MCU fan is very adverse to seeing anything other than that. They said Sam Raimi's direction just wasn't right for the MCU. I saw people saying, don't bring him back, etc., etc. But I thought he was the best part of the movie. He was carrying it with his visual flair. I don't think this movie would be half as visually interesting if not for Sam Raimi. I thought the transitions were awesome. The scene where we went from Wanda's like dilapidated or fucked up scarlet rot apple orchard, and then Wong slowly walks towards the camera, and that goes out of focus as Wong's face comes into focus, and then the background of that slowly shifts as the focus changed, was so cool. I was like, that was awesome. And then the scene where Mordo is explaining how the walking works, the like multiversal dream walking works, where it was fading in and out between Wanda sort of like meditating as he's explaining it, and the lighting of the fire, just so much cool visual flair. And the scene where Professor X goes into Wanda's mind with the red mist and the white background, very distinct, and had a lot of contrast. It's just stuff you don't see, and it's very visually appealing, but people, I guess, don't want interesting stuff. They just want...
I have to inject in here. Nobody on this planet films a scary doorway scene like Sam Raimi. Nobody. If you got a doorway and you know that something on the other side of that doorway is scary and it's coming through, you call Sam Raimi. He's gonna film that, and you're gonna be scared. We were in the theater. Garrick was sitting on my left side. A friend of mine was sitting on my right. There was a woman directly on his right side. She had lost her mind at least 3 times in this film, like full on, like craziness whenever these scenes happened. And it's because Sam Raimi is at his heart a great practitioner of horror and jump scares. And to me, I mean, he nailed those scenes.
I saw a lot of people saying like, oh, Sam Raimi's a horror director. You should have expected this going in. And they're like, oh, yeah, there are a bunch of horrific scenes in Spider-Man. It's like, yeah, there kind of are if you were paying attention. Like, did you see Doc Ock turning into Doc Ock for the first time and the arms massacring those poor doctors? Like, that's an insane scene.
Goblin turning into Goblin, killing that guy in the lab. The scene when he's in the burning building and Peter goes in there and he's holding the kid and there's all the screaming.
Exactly.
Him pulling Peter down and being like, we can rule this town, Spider-Man. Like, something doesn't have to be terrifying for it to be within the horror genre, you know? Like, there are certain tropes in those that exist. Anywho.
Yeah, so we're giving a lot of praise to the film. I know we're, like, nitpicking the story, but there's a lot of good to appreciate in the movie, and we're trying to give some love to those aspects. And I think that Sam Raimi was definitely one of those aspects. Danny Elfman, when that one guitar lick hit, I was like, that was a euphoric moment. I was like, this is insane that they let him do this for the score, because it's something that you never see, and it's cool to have something fun and different in the MCU.
Whenever the eyeball pops up, it was like a whammy bar dive. It's like it's just kind of interesting for them to do that. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, that was really cool. So I love the direction. I think we can sit here for another hour and just praise how visually interesting it was. I think that really lent itself to Wanda's character being more threatening. I think without Sam, she would have not had the impact that she did. And I think that he and Elizabeth Olsen, whatever, they were on the same wavelength, and it was just a great team up. And I'd love to see them work again together. But yeah, I like that a lot. Let's talk about America Chavez. We haven't brought her up at all. Xochitl Gomez played her, and I think this is her first movie. I think she was like 15 or something, or 16 when this was filming. I thought she was great. I thought the actor, that is, was great. Not a lot, again, in the way of character development. I thought it was really, really jarring and like blatant, I don't know, sort of like cutting corners to just have her stand on this button and show us her like tragic backstory. I don't know, that didn't do it for me. Like, I likened it to what you would see in like a bad AAA video game, where there's like a creator or a player created main character, and then they just show you whatever generic backstory there is, because that's the created character and you can't be super unique as something in like Uncharted or whatever. So it was just really random to see, like, okay, we're walking down the street, here's Doctor Strange's tragic backstory, and then here's America's tragic backstory. All right, move along.
Yeah, it's kind of a MacGuffin in that way. Like, they're just like, here, this serves to push the plot forward a little bit, but we need to inject this like weird thing to have it work. I thought that the actress did a great job. I don't think that her requirements were too significant. And she definitely felt a bit like at the end, kind of almost like an easy win button for the movie to end that way, which is fine. I mean, they needed something for her to kind of do. But I got to tell you, and I know this is going to seem completely contrary to what I've been saying about the movie, is out of everybody in this film, I want to see more of her the most. I want to see more of what her character is capable of. I actually do know quite a good bit about America Chavez. I'm probably one of like 8 people that read her standalone series, and when she was in Young Avengers and things like that. But she's a cool character. She's very interesting. I think she's super unique, as long as they, who knows if they're going to stick with that version of the character or not. But I want to see more of her, and I kind of want to see what they can do with her in this universe to make her kind of stand out. I think that she did a really good job, and I'm on board with more of whatever that actress, can bring to the table.
Yeah, so I thought that America was not that interesting as a character, but I thought Xochitl was so like charming and just instantly likable as an actor. That I'm really excited to see more of her. She's one of the new actors in the MCU that I've really, really just felt like she's going to be great. I can't wait to see more of her.
Sure.
Simu Liu in Shang-Chi, I felt the same way about him. So I absolutely loved her in the movie. And yeah, I hope to see more of her. All right. Let's talk about it. What everyone wants to hear.
All right. So if you're here, it's 9:16. Usually we don't do a podcast longer than that, but look, you're getting 2 for 1, so you stayed with us. We appreciate it. It's cameo time, ladies and gentlemen. It's time to talk about the cameos. Can we get a cameo in the chat, please?
Can we get some cameo music? Next time I'll have A little ding for
Actually, we have a guest cameo here. Come on over, Benedict. No, you're not good. Okay, he doesn't want to be on. I don't know.
Wow, you really hyped everyone up, and for nothing.
I thought he was gonna be on, but
so in the Multiverse of Madness, we've had months and months of people speculating who will be in this film. Who could possibly be? It could be anyone. It could be Deadpool. It could be the X-Men. It could be Blade. We're
all hoping it was going to be Morbius.
It could be Superman. It could be Morbius. It could be Venom. It could be any of the Spider-Men from No Way Home. It could literally be anything. It could be video game characters. It could be Spider-Man PS4. It could be the characters from the comics. It's the multiverse. You can do anything.
Sonic the Hedgehog.
Yes. What we got
crossover
was the Illuminati. Now, a lot of people complaining, not enough cameos. Personally, would have liked to seen less, but that's fine.
Agreed.
Let's talk about the Illuminati. I feel like people are going to hate me for this. I felt like you cut the Illuminati stuff out of the movie.
It's a better movie.
Doesn't really change. But yeah, improves possibly. I think you get maybe another cool fight scene with Strange or something instead of these people just getting run through.
So one of the big problems that I have with the Illuminati is they're very similar in this, at least in the usage of this, to what often happens in comic books when you need to make somebody new seem powerful. So in comics, one trope that existed since the fucking dawn of time has been if you need to make a villain look scary and dangerous, you have them come in and just trash the place, like beat up the strongest dudes that they can so that you know that they're strong, right? I'm strong.
Look no further than Infinity War when Thanos dismantled the Hulk in the first 5 minutes.
Exactly. Very common trope. Hela does it. She kills everybody in like 10 seconds.
Destroys Mjolnir as soon as she comes on.
It's a common thing. In this movie, like, it just wasn't necessary. Like, the Illuminati was used as a plot device to show you how powerful Wanda had become. But, spoiler alert, we already fucking knew how strong she was. We already had seen her do things in the MCU that no one else had come close to. She had hypnotized the Hulk. She had basically almost 1v1 Thanos if it wasn't for his ship blasting, rockets down at her. She enslaved an entire town. She defeated one of the strongest witches on Earth that we know about at that time. She was just trashing Doctor Strange throughout the entire movie, and even stronger, more, Defender Stranges. So she's killing other Defender Stranges easily, just with henchmen. So yeah, she's strong. You didn't need to nuke the whole Illuminati in one scene. Like they didn't have to be in there, Yeah, it just was one of those things where it was like very obviously, all right, we're setting something else up. Here's an incursion. It could start a little bit of a secret war if you're not careful, Strange. So it just... And the MCU, I don't think, did horribly at this in, like, phases 1, 2, and 3. There were, problems at some points. And the biggest issue was with Age of Ultron. That was, like, one of the biggest complaints. The pacing was bad because we stopped every 5 minutes to advertise something else. Thor's got to set up Infinity War. And then we got to go get Vibranium from Klaw so we can set up Black Panther. And then Iron Man and Captain America have to have a fight so we can set up Civil War. And it was just, come on with it, right? Yeah. And in Phase 4, I feel like all they do is sell us the next thing. It's like we're already invested. We don't need sold on it. We just want cool stories and character development and stuff. So they're like, let's bring in Reed Richards, his first appearance in the MCU. We're going to have him, he's going to get shit on. Professor X is going to get his head ripped in two. And it goes down the line or whatever. It just felt like they didn't need to be there at all. And cool, it was a fun fight. And it was awesome to see, like, Captain Marvel fight Wanda or whatever. Like, cool. That was fine. But I don't know. It didn't hit for me personally. Like, in our theater, you were with me, they were like, we saw No Way Home together, we saw Endgame together,
and we saw this movie together. If you compare the cheers in Endgame, insane. The cheers in No Way Home, pretty loud, not as crazy. In this, it was a couple like, woo, you know?
Yeah.
And
well, and one of them was me, because I was like, yay, Mr. Fantastic, my son's named after him. I like him a lot. Cool. But I think that they did themselves a disservice by including Patrick Stewart's voice in the trailer. I think that reveal would have been much cooler if it happened in the film. I definitely think that the Illuminati, in terms of the makeup of the Illuminati, also didn't make a lot of sense.
Wasn't a huge fan of the team.
Yeah, like Monica Rambeau being Captain Marvel is like a lot of people. I know my wife specifically, who has seen every show and every movie. She doesn't gush over them like we do, but she leaned in and goes, "Who the hell is that again?" And I was like, "That's Captain Marvel's like best friend in her movie, but I guess in her universe she became Captain Marvel." And she's like, "Oh, okay." And then obviously, most people knew who Captain Carter was, or at least a lot of people did. Mordo, don't know why he's on the Illuminati at all. I guess it's because he was Sorcerer Supreme in that dimension, but I don't know why there couldn't have just been another better Strange from another dimension, because, Anyway, and then Stewart and Black Bolt. But, yeah, they were just cannon fodder to get absolutely wrecked by Wanda, which I felt like wasn't a really great
what's up with the
cameo.
Illuminati team just being, like, full of idiots?
Yeah.
They're like, Strange, listen. We know the Scarlet Witch isn't a big deal, okay? We know she has the Darkhold. We know it's all powerful, all right? But you're the problem, Strange.
My biggest problem with them is, like, they're supposed to be this badass multiversal team, and they're like, what if we fight her one at a time? What?
We'll wreck Scarlet Witch, buddy boy, okay? We
Trust
know
me.
for a fact we'll demolish her. Even
If
though
I
she
fight
could
him-
beat Thanos by herself, and we needed you to use the Darkhold to beat Thanos, we'll definitely beat her alone. And then it's
Easy
like,
peasy.
half of you do nothing. Captain Carter is just Captain America compared to someone that can destroy planets. I don't think she's doing much. Mr. Fantastic, all you can do is stretch. I hate to be the bearer of bad news. You're not that badass. And then you show up with your powerhouse, Black Bolt, who can atomize anybody with a word, and he goes, "Hey, Scarlet Witch, would you like to know his powers?"
Yeah, would you like to know
thank
exactly
you.
how to stop him
Yeah.
immediately? That's
Smartest
like a
man on Earth. Let's go.
Superman advertised before every fight. Hey, I'm gonna fight you, but you don't got any kryptonite, do you? Okay, good. Then we're good. We're
Wait, what's
straight.
kryptonite? Don't worry about that.
Yeah.
I don't
Actually,
know.
let's just meet back up tomorrow. I want to give you some time to go investigate that, since I brought it up. I don't want any plot holes lingering.
Right. And the characters were like, again, they were like, all right, it's my turn to try, and then, all right, you're done. How about me? You're fucking finished. I got it. Nope, you're dead. Like, why don't we jump her or something? And you guys, the thing is, like, okay, they're arrogant, and that's, like, supposed to be the thing, but they're so arrogant to the point where the Scarlet Witch with the Darkhold is, like, an afterthought, and they have to give Strange a talking to before they, like, worry about it at all.
Yeah.
It was just, I don't know.
That's one of those things that like I would, a couple, well, I won't say a couple years ago, but about 15 years ago, it all started coming out, in bits and pieces about why Venom was included in Spider-Man 3, the Raimi movie, is he did not want to include Venom at all. He wanted the villain to be Sandman, and that was it. And then you come to find out that the executives at Sony were like, look, Venom is putting in work in the comics. People love him. He's a fan favorite. You got to include him. And he did. And he tried to ham fist that story into the story that he was telling. And it ultimately ended up making that movie less than desirable in the eyes of most fans. this very much, I would not be surprised if in a couple years it comes out that Sam Raimi did not want to include any of those characters. He might very well have had cameos, but I'm guaranteeing you that it probably was not those people, and it was not the Illuminati. He said in an interview recently, he's like, I didn't even watch all of WandaVision. It wasn't that important to me. They gave me a couple plot points that I needed to know to tell my story. But like, you think he knows who Captain Carter is? You think he watched What If? No way. That was a Kevin Feige, like, let's make sure we check this box. Let's put this Black Bolt guy in there. He didn't care about those characters. That was like that 100% screams like he was told who he had to put in there, and then he just had to make, diamonds out of coal, and it was just impossible.
Somebody in the chat was like, that was the Wanda from their universe. They didn't want to hurt her, but it's like the multiverse is at stake. They already killed their best pal, Doctor Strange, the founder of the Illuminati, for using the Darkhold to beat Thanos.
Yeah. Why would they care about this random person they've never met? Like, they're supposed to be like very, I wouldn't say judgmental, but very like conscientious of the stakes around them. Objective is a great word that I don't know why my stupid ass brain couldn't think of it. But
they were worried about like Doctor Strange accidentally destroying one universe. Meanwhile, Scarlet Witch is planning to like rule the entire multiverse, which they all know about the prophecy and all that stuff. And also, they just wouldn't give Strange the Book of Vishanti. They're like blatant mistrust of every single Strange across the multiverse was just insane. Like, these characters, and Reed Richards especially, all of them know that within the Marvel Cinematic Universe multiverse, there's an infinite number of other universes where like an infinite number of possibilities exist. But they can't fathom one Doctor Strange not being a piece of shit just because theirs was. Like, Reed Richards, in another universe, you could be a serial killer. Well, does that mean we should not trust you because there's one bad Reed Richards in the like? They're just they're overly stupid and overly confident to the point where it's just like it pulls you out because it's so jarring. Like, the justification for them being wary of Strange wasn't good enough for the audience, at least in my opinion, to be like, oh, okay, that makes sense.
And I know that this kind of seems nitpicky. If you're like listening, you're probably like, God, these guys are so that like, they can't enjoy anything. And it's like we look past a lot of stuff when we're watching films, but like when you really start to think about some of it, you're like, did nobody do another pass of this script and think like maybe this shit is gonna be like not good, not very well written in terms of character motivations like that? It kind of seems a bit stupid.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't want to get to the point where I have to go into
not smelling a deal.
I don't want to get to the point where I have to go into a Marvel movie and I need to shut my brain off to enjoy it at all. Like, I like Shang-Chi, I like Spider-Man No Way Home, but like Phase 4 has been more missed than it has been hits. And like I said, I love pretty much everything in Phase 1 other than, I mean, Iron Man 2 even has its charms. I love pretty much everything in Phase 2 except for Thor: The Dark World. And Phase 3 is almost non-stop wall-to-wall bangers. It's just, I don't know. Since Endgame...
I know you were a big Ant-Man and Wasp guy.
Yeah. Since Endgame, I don't know. It hasn't been the same. I don't know what it is.
I've heard people talk about how, like, because there's a lack of clarity in where we're headed next, it seems like there's less enjoyment to be found in the movies, and I just wholeheartedly disagree with that.
I never even cared about that. Like,
I know. I just have found that the stories that they're telling aren't as fun and interesting. I think that they abandoned a lot of direction that they could have went in, and a lot of low hanging fruit I feel like is being ignored in order for them to go after these like big, crazy, bombastic stories.
Phase 4
overall,
it's felt like a giant ad for Phase 5. Like, can we slow down and focus on what we're doing now and not what we're doing next?
Phase 4 has very much felt like a commercial for whatever they're planning on doing next. And if the goal excuse me, if the goal is to go into phase 5 or 6 or whatever it is and do something as large and bombastic as a Secret Wars, multiversal, multi-timeline battle across the ages, like, you better give us characters that we care about, because you took most of the ones that we did away. Like,
Yeah,
Iron
you're
Man,
right.
Iron Man's gone. Captain America's gone. Black Widow is gone. Hawkeye is not gone, but certainly replaced. He was an afterthought in his own films. Thor is
Thor might be
possibly,
gone.
he
I
might
mean,
be gone based off what's going on.
Hulk's
Um,
retired.
yeah, Hulk is not around. There's going to be another one. So it's like you have to start by building these characters in a way that, obviously, Doctor Strange is a character he has a sequel. The Guardians of the Galaxy have a sequel, but I'm sure Shang-Chi will get will get a sequel based off how it was doing. There's more Black Panther stuff coming, but overall, like, you have to start doing some serious world building that isn't based all around like how like wouldn't I call it, like, wouldn't it be cool filmmaking. A lot of it to me reads like Kevin Feige's vision this time around is really bad fan fiction. It's like him going like, wouldn't it be cool if we had this person fight this person, or wouldn't it be cool if this happened? Well, yeah, sometimes things are cool, but that doesn't mean that they need to be there. Like, what I'd rather have is, I'd rather have you make me care about these characters. I'd rather have you tell a cohesive story that makes sense and that has like meaningful impact to the characters that are in that world, rather than just be like, ooh, scary witch lady didn't learn her lesson the first time, like, kind of a thing.
Yeah. I'm waiting for the phase 4, like Iron Man 1 or Winter Soldier, or, any number of these films where they really took the time to establish what these characters are about and why we should care about them. And you
Yeah,
brought up a great point. That we do have some characters that we still care about. Loki, but he's a, phase 1.
he's an
Stray,
OG.
um, Falcon, or Captain America, I should say. I think, I care about a lot now. I'm really invested in his story. Bucky as well. So there are a few out there, but we've really got to. I think we've got to
We've got to
focus.
focus on
Yeah,
who. Yeah,
we got to drown out some of the noise, man, because every
yeah.
every movie's getting too big for its own britches.
Hmm.
Like Spider-Man, I think did a good job of, despite it being crazy and multiversal, and Doctor Strange is trying to save the multiverse from cracking in the finale. I think it still did a pretty good job of focusing on Peter as a character and his relationships, and why we should care about him. Whereas Doctor Strange, I think, got lost a little bit somewhere, in his own film, which kind of sucks.
What? Who do Somebody just wrote this. Nigel Barry. I'm sorry if I mispronounced that, or Nigel Barry. If I pronounced it, I'm so sorry, man. I suck with pronunciations in general. But they said, what movie, or I'm assuming what they mean is, what character, what movie do you think has that potential? Out of all the new characters, like, realistically, you can't have an Avengers team that has 70 dudes on it for phase 2 at all times. Like, you got 8 Avengers, or eight Eternals, multiple characters in the Shang-Chi universe, multiple characters in Black Panther, multiple characters in Guardians of the Galaxy, multiple new characters in Doctor Strange, multiple new characters in that you're going to introduce in Ant-Man and the Wasp, and Falcon and Winter Soldier and Loki, and you got a lot of different people. So, like, where do we focus? Like, who do we focus on? Who's the crucial cast of characters that needs to be involved in, like, the decision making progress, the big events, the big world building elements that push the story forward? Because what I'm afraid of happening, I guess my big summation for this, or where I'm getting at, is what I'm afraid of happening in the MCU is exactly what has historically happened in comics. When you lose focus on what the point of the universe is, or the big, battles, like when you have 16 X-Men books, 5 different books on Batman, 10 different books on Avengers characters, and they're all telling different stories and none of them overlap, and then you try to do a crossover event, it's impossible. It's impossible, unless you're spending hundreds of dollars a month and reading everything, to be invested in where the story's going. It's difficult to tell a cohesive story if there's too much shit going on in the world. Like comic books have become so oversaturated that the average person, hell, I mean, half the point of our channel is people come to us and go, what's important? What do I need to know? You know, because you can't pick up a comic off the shelf anymore and just like get involved in the story very easily. And that's what I'm afraid of happening in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It gets too big. There's too many stories. There's too many characters all over the place, and not enough of them are removed from the playing field. And then, you know, a couple years later, we got to bring them back for some other reason.
Yeah. Just
Sorry, that was a bit of a rant.
Generally a little bit disappointed with Phase 4. I mean, hey, come back to us, you know, or go check out what we have been talking about for years, like back in Infinity War. I have nothing bad to say about Infinity War, and I was a little critical of Endgame when it first came out, but I've come back around on it, I think, a lot more. I think it was a really good finale to Phase 3. Or I guess the Infinity War saga. And I really, really like most of the movies in the MCU.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But because I care about it so much, I think it's fair to be critical about something that you care about.
I think it's important too.
Yeah, and realize when, you know, shit maybe isn't going as well as it could be going. And I think that's the biggest thing to take away from our feelings on both Moon Knight and Doctor Strange. And I think that's sort of reflected in how, you know, other reviews coming in are feeling as well. It's just, we're losing a little bit of the charm that the MCU got so popular with. And that's interesting, fun, lovable, relatable, despite them being superheroes and gods characters. And that's really, you know, the cornerstone of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and I think we're losing a lot of that. Especially with somebody like so fun as Xochitl, who played America Chaves. She has so much potential, but you have to make sure the character lives up to, you know, the actor's potential. And in the movie, she's nothing.
You also have to think about, like, with how many characters you have. When you do have a bright spot like Xochitl, you have to wonder, am I ever going to see this person again? Or when will I see them again? Like, is it going to be 4 years? Do I have to wait until Doctor Strange 2? Is she going to show up in, I don't know, some other project that's unannounced, or show up in this world and that world? It's like, I feel like we had a better roadmap before, and because the cast of characters was a little bit tighter and a little bit more better interwoven, you kind of had a good idea of when people were going to show up again. And now I feel like it's literally anybody's game. You know, who the hell knows who's going to show up in Thor Love and Thunder? Like, it could literally be anybody just popping in. We already know the Guardians are in there. And then after that, you know, and after that, and after that.
Yeah. So it is what it is.
It is.
Let's end on a positive note, because this all really stemmed from the Illuminati discussion, but I do want to get into the final battle, the finale of the film, which I did like a lot. I thought it was sick. Doctor Strange possessing the dead body of Defender Strange and then using the spirits of the damned to make this fucking metal-ass cape and fly out and try and fight Scarlet Witch, I thought was really fun. And we haven't really talked about
that before.
Yeah, well, we're not all as cool as you. And I thought we haven't talked about Benedict Wong as Wong much, but I love this guy. Every single time Wong shows up, I'm just like, there's my boy. I love Wong. I think it's cool that he's still the Sorcerer Supreme. I think people were like kind of salty about that he got the nod over Strange while Strange was snapped or blipped or whatever they're calling it in universe. But he's great, and I thought the finale was a lot of fun, and I thought it was pretty crazy.
Yeah, Wong is a character that I think that, like you said, anytime he shows up, I'm on board. I out of anybody in the Marvel Universe, if you were like, who would you like to go just have some drinks with? It's Wong.
Wong is, he'll sing karaoke with you.
He's the homie. He'll probably show you some magic spells that are dope.
He's hanging out with Emil Blonsky. Like, what's going on with that?
He's doing stuff that he's not supposed to be doing, you know. But
he's a little bit of
but
a
yeah,
breaker.
the climax of the film to me was definitely like more of kind of what I was expecting in the movie, which is more really cool magical things happening. You know, Doctor Strange casting this insane spell, and then the ramifications of that spell, you know, as the film ends with him still having the third eye, which at least in this universe appears to be lingering corruption from the Darkhold. There's all kinds of cool stuff there. I would have rather had the movie focus far more on spells, sorceries, and a clever use of those to overcome Wanda more than if we could kill her with cameos, essentially. So the climax of the film, when they stopped dicking around with the cameos and stupid shit, and they focused more on an intricate battle of essentially who's smarter, who's done more prep work. Is it Wanda studying the Darkhold, or is it Doctor Strange leaning on everything that he knows, plus the corruption of having this extra added arsenal of Darkhold spells? I thought that was the best part of the movie, was like the last 10 minutes of it. And that for me is rare, because I feel like a lot of Marvel movies come undone in the last like 15 minutes of the movie. Like they just don't deliver. And this one, I felt like the middle section of the movie was like, stop doing whatever you're doing and then get to the wizard part. Like, that part was better.
Yeah, the first act I thought was like, we got right into it. No bullshit. Wanda's the villain.
Not an ounce of bullshit.
Here we go. We're just into it. So that was a little like, okay, we're a little breakneck. And then I wasn't a big fan of the fight at Carmitage at the beginning. It was kind of like, all right, everyone put your barriers up. And they did that, and Strange and Wong were just sitting there with their arms crossed, like nodding, good job. And they don't fight Wanda at all, or like help. And then they're like, all right, it's broken, everyone run. And then the second act, we already talked about it. I thought it was horrible. But the third act, they really brought us together, and it was sick. The fight between Strange and Crazy Strange was awesome. And then the final, I'm a zombie with a million arms and the spirits of the damned and all that was so cool. So love the third act. First two really did not do it for me.
One of the longtime goats, Michael Myers, saying the Wong extended universe. And I think that's really where we're headed. Let's get in a multiversal Avengers team
the WCU.
Where Wong is the leader.
Turn that M upside down.
Yep.
So
he solved the problem for you, Kevin. Pay that man.
I don't know if I want to give Doctor Strange like a score, but I'd probably give it, I don't know. It's middle of the road. It's just like above mediocre for the third act, Sam Raimi and Danny Elfman. And I think the performance of everyone at the main cast was good. Like, everyone in the main cast was killer, but the script is the only problem I have with the movie. The script was just not that great. Every actor, Sam Raimi, Danny Elfman, just the script sucked. I don't know.
What if we do what like IGN does whenever they can't come up with like a really good review score and just give it a 7? I think
I'd give it a 6.
7. Okay. So I gave it a 7. You'll give it a 6. We'll meet in the middle. 6.5.
2 points for Raimi. 2 points for the actors. 2 points for Elfman. And there you go.
0.5 for the magical battle.
Right. So, I mean, overall, I thought it was a fun experience. Just a lot of Marvel Phase 4 stuff frustrated us and brought the movie down from something that could be amazing to something that's just kind of because at the end of the day, the story's what really matters, unless you're doing like some crazy art house movie where it's like all visual, and Marvel would never do anything like that, even though I think Sam Raimi could do it. It comes down to the story, it comes down to the characters, and when that's lacking, everything sort of, can't live up. Despite the actors being amazing, which we've already said, the score being amazing, and the director being amazing. So that's how we felt. Multiverse of Madness was just okay. Moon Knight was just okay. We are sitting here hoping and praying to God that, or Khonshu, that the next MCU thing is killer. And somebody asked us earlier, like, what we're looking forward to. I don't think I answered it, but the only things in the MCU have faith in that is going to be good is Thor: Love and Thunder, because Taika Waititi's directing it. He's awesome.
He's simply doesn't miss.
Also, he's writing the script. I thought the biggest problem with Thor Ragnarok, I'm not going to take forever saying this, but I thought the biggest problem with Thor Ragnarok was the script. Taika Waititi's an amazing writer. He's co-writing this, so I think that's going to be a step above Ragnarok. Not to mention he's a great director. And also Guardians of the Galaxy 3, James Gunn, undefeated, Peacemaker, Guardians 1, Guardians 2, The Suicide Squad, Scooby-Doo, Slither, all the way down the line. James Gunn's a killer.
Also, what'll come out even before Guardians of the Galaxy 3 is the Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special. Yeah. And I'm super hyped for that, because if by some means they manage to do that really well, I think that could end up being one of those things. I'm a really big fan of stuff with like longevity built into it, and if Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special is one of those things that just resonates with people in a very holiday, like, cheerful spirit, that could be something that we watch every single year. Yeah. And I'm like really excited. My kids love Guardians of the Galaxy, so I'm really excited. And that's just like one of those positive things. You can't, could you imagine saying, I couldn't imagine thinking years ago, like, my kids would be a fan of, like, Star-Lord and Groot. But James Gunn did that with those characters. He made those, that made that possible. And that's so cool. Anywho, that's it. I'm done.
All right, there you have it. Thanks, everybody who showed up. Great stream. A lot of people agreeing in the chat, a lot of people disagreeing in the chat. That's fine.
That's okay.
These are opinions. We love you anyway. And it's fun to have the discussion. Nick and I personally not feeling Phase 4 that much, but things can change like that. We obviously really care about this stuff. We have an entire channel dedicated to comic book related media and comic books themselves. So obviously we're invested in the success of it, not just from a viewer standpoint where we want to see stuff that's awesome, but it also helps us create content for you guys. So those are our thoughts. We'll be back with more regular stuff. This is like the new look Key Issues podcast, but I think it's pretty good. I think it's pretty good setup.
It works because we don't have to get up either.
Yeah,
I can just
it's solid.
In my basement. I need to get a setup like you have, and I just don't know how to do that because my entire basement.
You just have to. You'd have to face your camera at a wall, and put some stuff on the wall, and that's it. You're done.
Yep. Yeah.
All right, everyone. Thanks for stopping by. Thanks for showing up. Thanks to everyone who chatted in the chat. Again, we do really appreciate all of you. Of course, you're all already subscribed, but follow us on Twitter. The links for that are in the description. And we will see you in the next one. I'll probably be streaming again later this week, probably on Wednesday. I'm definitely going to have Chad on. I know you guys really liked him in the last stream. We're going to talk about Marvel power scaling, some news and some other stuff like that. I don't know if Nick is ever going to do any solo streams, but he certainly has the ability to do so, and my blessing, of course, which is what really matters.
I'd love to do it, but I'm so charismatic that I'm afraid I would overshadow you.
That's fine.
And it's like your thing. No, maybe I would like to do stuff, but I don't know. We'll see. If I do, it'll definitely be shorter format than you because, kids and junk. So
yeah. All right, everyone. Thanks again. We will be back with another Key Issues podcast whenever we get around to it. We'll see you later. Bye.